66 days in the countdown to Antarctica. It's coming up quickly, and I'm still doing some planning. So I thought today would be a fun time to start talking a little bit more about the planning process for such a huge trip. So I think this is probably going to be a series that I do over a couple of days about the planning. And I thought I'd start with the biggest piece, which is the Antarctic expedition itself, because that's where it all started for me. And there's so many different factors that go into choosing an expedition, and there's really no right or wrong. It all depends on what you are looking for, particularly. And again, there's so many different factors, and you just have to blend everything that you find so that you create um, the trip that you want. Um, so I think the first thing that I'm going to talk about is the size of the ship, because that makes a difference on whether you get to actually get off the ship and go on to land once you arrive in Antarctica or not. So there are some expeditions where you go and you don't get off the ship, you just drive around on the boat and see things from afar. You might get the opportunity to go into zodiacs, which are just little smaller boats, and explore a little bit closer to the water, but some of them don't allow you to get on land. And from my understanding, that's based on ship size. So any ship that has over 500 passengers will not allow you or the expedition vessel to have the passengers exit the ship and get onto the land. So a ship that's under 500 passengers, ideally under 200, it would be even better. Just thinking about logistics of how many people have to get off and get transported from the big ship to the land. Obviously, the big ships are big and they can't pull right up to the side of the land. There's no piers or anything like that down there. So you have to get from the larger ship to land via a zodiac. So that's one of the big things. So do you actually want to set foot on Antarctica? Because the size of the ship will likely determine that. The next thing to think about is like picking the itinerary. Where is the ship going to go and what are you going to see? There's so many different itineraries, from like, I think the shortest is 8 days to like months long. So you could probably have anything that you wanted depending on your time length and your budget, obviously. Um, so that's the next thing to think about. The other thing to think about is like what time of year you want to go, because Antarctic summer, when these expeditions go, is like 6 months long. When I say that, that sounds really long. I guess that's spring and summer, like compared to the summer we have in Calgary, which is like 2 months if we're lucky. Um, but anyways, the summer season where they do these expeditions is from, I think, end of October to the end of March. And that's their spring/summer time. And depending on which time frame you choose, you will have different weather and also different animal life activity. So earlier in the season is going to be a little bit colder, a little bit more ice, and a lot of migration of animals, whales, seals, all that kind of stuff into Antarctica. Um, Maybe you'll see some baby freshly hatched chicks. That would be so cool. If you go in January, February, that's more of the high season of their summer. It's going to be the warmest, and you'll see some chicks that are a little bit older, um, and less ice around there. And then if you go in March, it's the end of their summer, so you're going to start getting a little bit cooler temperatures, more mature sea life and other, not just sea life, but the birds. So a little bit more mature penguin chicks, seals as well. And apparently there's a little bit more predatory behavior when you go on the later season. I didn't look into why that is. Probably just, age of all the things and the cycles of life and the seasons. Okay, so we talked about the ship size, the time of year, and where you want to see. The other thing to think about would be like, what did these vessels, these tour companies offer as different activities, because it varies widely. right? Some are just get off onto the land and walk around. Some will offer kayaking or camping or mountaineering or skiing or scuba diving. So that's something that you want to definitely look into when you're picking a company to go with. The other thing would be like, what kind of accommodation do you want on the ship? You can have certain companies, like the one that I went with, you can have a shared room where they will pair you with somebody else that wants a shared room, or you can, book a whole room for four people that you can get private rooms, room for one person. And there's ones with portholes and ones with windows and ones with balconies. So depending on what you want, that's going to also determine what type of vessel that you pick. And then taking all of those things into mind is going to determine the price as well. The time of year, the vessel size, the activities that you choose, and the type of accommodation that you have is all going to alter the price of that expedition. So I think I covered everything. Knowing me, I'll remember something else as soon as I turn off the video. But if there's anything else you guys have questions about in terms of planning the Antarctica portion of the trip, please let me know. Oh yeah, I'm not sure if I already said this or not, but so for me, this part was the easiest part because I really selected the vessel based on two things. The ability to go scuba diving and recommendations from other people that had gone and went scuba diving in Antarctica as well. So everybody that I had spoke to had used ocean-wide expeditions that went there specifically for scuba diving. So that was a huge piece of why I chose to go with them. And the fact that they had the shared accommodation option. So yeah, it all worked out fantastic for me. I'm getting everything that I wanted. Scuba diving, a great room where I'll meet some people. Yeah, and everything else is done. So especially with Oceanwide, once you select the vessel, and the sailing date, that's all you need to do. There's nothing added on, right? Your room is there. They take care of all the food, all the other things, basically like a hotel on water. Not quite like a cruise ship. It is very different than a cruise ship. But in terms of what you get food wise and service wise, it would be similar. So and I guess I'll share. So the vessel that I ended up going with is the MV Hondius, and the vessel itself didn't really matter, but it was everything else that led me to that one, which was the right time of year and the activities that I wanted to do. And that has 170 passengers on it, and I can't remember how many crew, 100 and something. So it's fairly small, and I'm so excited. There's still room left, I think, on the ship if anybody wants to join me. Anyways, thanks for joining me tonight, guys, and we'll see you again tomorrow for day 65.